Good evening, I'm Lewis, the Night Guard. I wanted to start this series of videos with a personal story. Now, this isn't going to constantly be personal stories, none of that, but I feel I should start with just this one story because it's something I've never truly been able to explain. I'd say 2000 and... I want to say between 2002 and 2005. And we went on our annual family holiday to Devon, a place called Sandy Bay, which is sort of on the east coast of Devon. It was me, my mum, my dad, and I think it was four of my sisters at the time. We used to go there pretty much every year. It was either Devon or Cornwall. We weren't a very well-off family, so we went on English resort holidays every summer in August for a week or two. We used to go to Sandy Bay quite often, as I said, and this one time we went there, something pretty weird happened to me that even my mum doesn't like talking about because it's just odd. So it was a nice resort. You know, there was a children's entertainment centre, there was a nice little theme park there where we'd go there at night for slush puppies and candy floss, and there was a big roller coaster called the Nessie, which is a big Loch Ness Monster roller coaster, which we went on hundreds of times. There was a big old ride called the Sky Master, which I was way too terrified to go on. I think it's not actually there anymore, it's in storage. It's been there for a few years, but I digress. So this one night, we go to bed as normal. It's been a normal day, having lots of fun at the entertainment centre and down the beach and going to get fish and chips and whatnot. I'm in bed, and I remember having this really vivid yet realistic dream. And in this dream, I was laying down in what I thought was a hospital bed, even though I couldn't feel anything beneath me. I'm just laying there, and I'm being wheeled through what seemed like a corridor. It was a sort of greenish, whitish colour. And if you think when you're on a motorway, in a tunnel, and you look up as you're driving and you see the lights whooshing by, kind of like in films where someone's on a hospital bed and it's a point of view shot and the lights are going whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. It was like that, but it was very fast, like unnaturally fast. Something from a sci-fi film. And this dream felt like it went on forever. And it was like I was gliding, like I was drifting, and this force was sort of dragging me through what looked like this corridor. And eventually I woke up out of the dream. Now, in the state between REM sleep and being awake fully, I woke up and I felt something touching my knees. And it wasn't like a grasp or, hard grabbing. It was like fingertips, very gently patting on both my knees. And I sort of slowly opened my eyes and came to, and as I was opening my eyes, the patting stopped, and as I'm laying in this bed, there's a window sort of to the right at the other end near the door to my room. And as I open my eyes, the patting stops, and I see what looks like a bluish, greyish figure. It made no noise. It didn't even feel like a presence. It's really hard to explain, but it was there. And as I opened my eyes, I saw this thing go whoosh, just out the window. But it didn't make a whooshing sound. It just shot out, disappeared. And I didn't really think much of it. I at the time, for some reason, I was so young, I guess, it didn't correlate, I guess. Anyway, I sort of sat up and woke up a bit, and then I went to the toilet. And when I got to the toilet, I turned the light on, and I looked down, and all down my legs are these black lines, like thin, straight, ruler straight, black lines, going all the way from my thighs down to my feet, all the way down. And the only way I can describe them is when you see a elderly person, or just someone that's quite old and they've got old tattoos and they've sort of faded and they're deep in the skin, that deep ink. It was like that, like these old tattoo lines going down my legs. And again, for some reason, being that young, I didn't really think much of it. Now if that happened, I'd be freaking out. But at the time, for some reason, I wasn't jarred by it. So I saw these lines down my legs. I finished what I had to do, went back to bed. And I woke up in the morning, and I went to the living room area, and my mum was sat there. I think she was having a morning tea and a fag. And I went to make my breakfast, so I was thinking I was getting cereal from the cupboard or something. And I hear my mum say, "Lewis, what's all that down your back?" So I'm like, you know what? I can't see. And she comes up to me, and basically, all down my back and down the back of my legs was mud and grass stains. Like I'd been dragged across mud and grass quite rapidly. And I definitely know that I hadn't been out the night before in the mud. We'd been dressed up nicely at this entertainment centre and having the full day out, but I know that I wasn't in the mud. It just simply didn't happen, and she knows that as well. This is why she's so weirded out by it. So that was that part of it, but this is the weirdest. They did check all the doors and so forth were closed. Windows were open because it was so hot. It was one of the hottest summers I remember. It was extremely hot that summer. I think it was a heat wave, actually. But this is the weirdest part of the whole thing, which adds a whole new layer to this story. So, before that night, as a child, I always had growing pains in my knees. It felt like my knees were always expanding, and I had really bad joint pains, and the doctors basically said I'd just have to grow out of them. And then, that night, after getting touched by whatever it was that touched my knees, the joint pains, the growing pains, disappeared. Honestly, just gone. And I've never had them since. You know, a good 25 odd years later, they've never come back. So, what do you think this was? Because I've heard so many theories, you know. I spoke to a Christian once who told me I was touched by an angel. Well, that's his interpretation. The logical explanation, as many have said, was sleepwalking. But if I was sleepwalking, does that mean I was dragging myself through the mud and the grass? Was I starfishing in the mud and the grass? And then, of course, there is the concept of aliens. Now, I am a firm believer in aliens. But, disclaimer, I do not think I am special. I do not think I am some unique being that was abducted or probed or whatnot. But I can't think of an explanation of what this was and how this happened. There probably is one, but I've not managed to come up with one. So, what I do believe is I was visited. By what? I don't know. So, I mean, let me know what you think. Let me know if you think there's any logical explanation, paranormal theories, anything. I am open to anything because there's a mystery that has played on my mind for many years now. So, I honestly welcome your thoughts and opinions. But I hope you enjoyed the story. Either way, I promise you that it is true. Well, in my mind, it's true. If you don't believe me, fine. Tell me you don't believe me. You know, I don't mind. So, I look forward to doing more of these videos. I thought I'd start us off, as I said, with a personal story. It's not going to be like that the whole time. But next time, I will be telling a story that a friend sent me in which he saw something that meant he will never ever step foot in the state of Maine ever again. I look forward to it. Thank you very much for listening. Good night.